welcome back to my channel. I'm Nicole.Angelo, and this video is to help students working on making like denominators or like numerators in order to use the like denominator, like numerator rule for comparing fractions. Screen here. All right, so the first problem that we want to deal with is we're looking to compare 3/4 to 5/8. Now, we could draw it out, which is a strategy that can be used, but it can be difficult to use. So I know that the greatest amount of space has to be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and I know that when I compare the other fraction to it, it has to be the same space equal. So 8, I'm going to split this in 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this one I'm going to split in fourths, which means every other box. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I could do 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 3/4. Now, based on this model, I can definitely see that 3/4 is greater than 5/8. But models aren't always that easy. 3/4 is greater than 5/8. Models aren't always this easy where they evenly split and it's super easy to make the models. You could have something that's in thirds and fifths, and that's not very easy. So we use the strategy of creating like denominators and like numerators. First thing, let's talk about the rules for like denominators and like numerators. Like numerators states that when the numerators are the same, when the numerators are the same, compare the denominators and the fraction with the smaller valued denominator takes up more space. So an example of that would be like 3/6 and 3/9. 3/6 is greater than 3/9. That's the rule. And I can see that all right, and 9s are hard to do, but 3/6 is greater than 3/9, and I can see that this way. I can compare them that way. But using the rule of the numerators being the same, looking to the denominators and the fraction with the denominator that is of smaller value is much easier than trying to draw it out. The next rule, which is like denominators. When the denominators are the same, compare the numerators and the fraction with the greater valued numerator takes up more space. All right, so an example of that would be 3/4 compared to 2/4. We would look at the numerators. The 3 is bigger, so 3/4 is greater than 2/4. And we can see that here. Three-fourths, 2/4. So you can definitely see that 3/4 takes up more space. So now we're going to talk about, so those are our two rules. We're going to talk about this problem up here, 3/4 and 5/8. So I'm looking at 3/4 and I have 5/8. And you always think, what can I multiply times my smaller numerator to get my greater numerator? So is there anything that I can multiply times 3 to make 5? So if I count by threes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's nothing that I can multiply times 3 to make 5. So I can't make a common numerator. That's not possible. But I can, so I'm going to look here to make my common denominator. 4 times blank equals 8. So what times 4 equals 8? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I multiplied 4 times 2 to make 8. Once I figure out what fractional whole to multiply my fraction by, I multiply my smaller denominator fraction by 2/2, because you have to multiply it by a whole, 2/2. So 4 times 3/4 times 2/2. Because when I do that, that's a fractional whole. I'm creating an equivalent fraction. It looks different and it'll make it easier for me to compare, but it still takes up the same amount of space as 3/4. 2 times 3 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. So now I have 6/8 compared to 5/8. The 6 is greater than the 5. So 3/4 is greater than 5/8. All right, so here's another example of a question we have of a comparison of fractions. Let's say I have 3/5 and 6/8. 3/5 and 6/8. So I want to compare these. I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, where I'm going to take my smaller valued numerator and see if I can multiply anything times that to make the larger valued numerator. So what times 3 equals 6? 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 times 2 equals 6. So now I'm going to take and multiply 3/5, because it's 3 times 2, times 2/2, because it is supposed to be a whole. You can only multiply by a whole to create an equivalent fraction. 3 times 2 equals 6, and 5 times 2 is 10. So I have 6/10 and 6/8. Now the rule for common numerators states that the smaller numerator has the greater value. So 6/10 is less than 6/8, which makes 3/5 less than 6/8. All right, the students will do this. I thank you for watching and I hope it helps.